It is Country Viewpoint here on Flow FM. Time now to welcome back to the program the Mayor of the Yarriambiack Shire Council, Graeme Massey. Graeme, how's lockdown treating you, mate?
Well, I'm getting a bit used to it now, Jason. It's not the best thing to happen to us, but hopefully it'll only be the week, but I'm starting to feel it might be a bit longer than that.
Yeah, we've all got our fingers crossed in that regard, but you might be right. Yeah.
It's not looking promising, and look, I don't know how we adjust to this. It's a fact of life. I've always said to people that we're going to live with it for quite a long time, and I think between us all, between the governments and us as residents, we've been a bit complacent in our attitude, and it's caught up with us, and we're paying a bit of a penalty now for it.
Yeah, there is certainly that. Question whether or not it needs to be statewide, and these are all topics that can be looked at, I guess. Hopefully they're being looked at now, but some of the trials and tribulations that regional Victorians are going through at the moment, where there's no real COVID cases. Think about this for a moment. People of Matoa at the moment are at home without any power for about 8 hours today, while some pretty important maintenance works are being done on the transmission lines there around town, as far as I understand. Pretty hard to do remote learning when there's no power. Very hard
to do anything, and particularly in this sort of weather, if you're reliant on power for your heating. It's not a warm day in the Wimmera at the moment.
Yeah, it's,
I feel really. Look, it's just it's very unfortunate, but the circumstances are just out of our control. We can't handle that one at all.
No, exactly right. Let's talk about first of all. It's all linked to the lockdown. But regional councils conference. You attended this recently when the lockdown news first came through. First of all, how did the conference go up until that point?
Look, it went pretty well. We had council on the Wednesday, so I went across with Jesse Holmes and Carly Kirk. We left after council, so we didn't get there till around 6 o'clock, so we didn't go out to the reception. We just stayed in the Gambia and booked ourselves in and had a meal, and then went out the next day to find out that it was still going ahead. We at that stage knew very little. We didn't know. Rumours were going around that there was going to be a lockdown of some sort, but we weren't too sure what it was until that afternoon, and then it was announced quite clearly that Friday was off. So we juggled the program around so that the presenters on Friday who were there were able to talk in the afternoon. We cut a few out. We had people on Zoom instead of in person. But, look, it went pretty well. We didn't stay for the dinner that night. We decided that it was a little bit pointless because then we had to come home under COVID conditions, and it's a 4-hour trip for us. We thought if we got away, it's no point just staying there the night and then getting up in the morning and coming back. So we left that night.
Must be, I guess, frustrating an event of that magnitude. An opportunity for council mayors and representatives, workers, CEOs like Jesse mentioned there to get together and, I guess, exchange ideas. That's what these conferences are all about. Just sort of cut short.
That's exactly what it is, and really it was going to be a day and a half, and it's the networking that's the important thing, because you get to meet people from your other shires who've got similar issues, and it's a joint feeding off each other on how we handle things and how we address our communities, and some great ideas that they're undertaking that we can borrow.
Now, on the lockdown itself, so obviously once you get the news, you come home. On the lockdown itself, unfortunately on the Friday there was some events that needed to be cancelled. The My Aged Care sessions, which had been going on in other areas, other parts of the Yarriambiack Shire through that week, the sessions that were planned for the Friday had to be cancelled. Is that right?
That's right, and they'll be rescheduled. We had an event in Warwicknabeal for the end of Reconciliation Week, which was going to be down at the Lions Park in Warwicknabeal. That was cancelled. I was going to go down and work with quite a large group of school children at the Creative Circuit building in Warwicknabeal on how their imagination of how Warwicknabeal would have looked 100 years ago, and building it all in 3D animation and using robotics to help do the construction. So that's been put on hold. And this week, I'm doing the phone and doing Zoom, and no face-to-face meetings, and we'll just wait and see what happens next week.
So for those looking to conduct council business at the moment, obviously we go back to previous lockdowns. I imagine it's a similar sort of style situation. A lot of Zoom, a lot of over-the-phone business being conducted. Clearly the council office would have to be closed to the public at the moment.
It is closed to the public, but the girls are still there, so the phone's operating and so is email, so people can still get in touch. I was talking to Rebecca Lowe on ABC earlier this morning about the click and collect service that we're running out of the library while the lockdown's on, so people can actually ring the library and order books and make an arrangement where they can pick them up.
That's important at the moment because obviously everyone's at home. So an opportunity to not just read a book, but library does provides a lot more services than just books these days.
It does, yeah. And look, for a short lockdown, we can handle it. But if it sort of drifts into weeks like the last one, it'll become more and more important for people to be able to have that service and access it.
Graeme, there's been a few people speaking out now saying, look, if this lockdown is extended beyond 7 days, that the extension shouldn't take in regional Victoria. There's no cases in regional Victoria at the moment. I think 80% of the cases that have been identified are in one particular local council area in Melbourne, so the northern parts of Melbourne. What are your thoughts on that? Should it be statewide, or do you think we should be opening up again in regional areas and letting regional Victorians go back and doing what they do?
Well, the government's telling us that it's for our own safety that we're part of the lockdown. It's really hard, Jason, because, look, I'm taking the advice that's given to us, but when we were going across to Ngambia the other day, we were listening to the radio all the way across, and at that stage, the Axfield Tavern out of Bendigo was identified on the Sunday. As far as I've heard now, there's been no case out of that, and they were talking about 100 contacts that they had to track down. And there was also a story going out that someone attended a football match at Kahuna, which involved Tooleybuck across the river. And as far as I'm aware, there's been no cases out of that either. Look, I'm not too sure how this disease is. It's a pretty insidious little unit that's operating with it, because I've seen today's paper that the person had it unknown for 2 weeks. And it seems to not affect everyone. Like a person can not affect their housemates, but seem to go out in the community and infect other people. So I don't know how it works. So we don't know. So if people go in and out of Melbourne and they come back into our area, it's a risk. But you would think the odds would be in favour of it not coming into rural areas.
There's nothing much we can do about it. The powers that be will make their decision. It'll be interesting to see what comes as of Thursday. I guess we'll find out more then. But in the meantime, council business does continue on. We should talk about the annual business plan and budget, because at your last meeting, I believe the draft was ratified. It's out for people to have a look at. Public consultation is open, and obviously you want some feedback.
We do. It's a completely new formatted budget, because we have to do it in line with the council plan. And we've spent February and March going to all our communities and talking to people about the next 4 years and what they thought we should be looking at and addressing, and the vision that we would have for the few years after that. So we've also, with the plan, we've come up with 4 themes, and our budget is directed to those 4 themes. I'll give you 2 examples, because it's quite an interesting document to have a look at on the website. But for example, we've got a healthy and inclusive community. It's one of our themes. And in the budget, we're going to retrial the community transport using council vehicles to take volunteer drivers taking people to medical appointments. That's back in. We're looking at the Warragambille Early Years Centre being extended to allow for 3-year-old kindergarten and childcare. We've made provision for childcare centre in Dunmunkle. And we're preparing a master plan for Matoa and Anzac Park Rec Reserves. So that's in the healthy and community one. But we've also got the economy one, which is Caravan Parks and roadworks. We're fixing up our website. But most of the expending is in allocated for asset renewal and upgrades. We've allocated $8 million of our budget for that, which is a third of the budget. Rates, we're going up 1.46%. which is in line with the fair go rate system. Some farming community people will be fined that their rates will go up a lot more than that, but we can only increase it. It's across the board increase, which is just over $200,000, but it's balanced out. And how we keep track with the way land prices and also residents within towns are going up as well, and very quickly. So, how we balance that with our rate. So we've tried to do our best. We've still got the differential, 62% for farms, which is in line with last year. So we'll just wait and see.
Okay.
We're not going overboard with the budget. We're trying to keep our spending within the framework that we've had for the last few years.
All right, so there's a bit to go through there. If you want to get a copy of it, you can contact the council and organise to get a hard copy, or you can just go straight to that website, Graeme, the council's website, and have a look at it there, right?
Yeah, it's user friendly. If you're not an accountant, don't panic, because everything's under headings, and you can see exactly what the money's being spent off in the areas, rather than just have it listed there with figures.
Right.
Figures mean something when something's written with it.
Correct, yeah. Now, submissions for that, you'll be taking submissions at a council meeting. Written submissions, of course, as always, are an option, but how is that working?
Written submissions are what we look at, so they can be made by emailing or writing a letter, and they've got a month, the end of June, before it's presented back at council, so that's nearly 3 weeks from this Wednesday. Plenty of time for a submission, and we usually get one or two. We might get more this time, but they're all taken on board, and we will address them according to how important we feel that they are in pointing things out to us.
You already received some pretty significant feedback on this when you went out and did some of those local meetings with various parts of your shire. Is that right?
We certainly did. We got quite a lot, particularly on health and wellbeing issues, on an ageing community and how we're looking after them. Of course, the roads, that's a big one, and we had a lot of roads and footpaths listed for attention, but we've got a road hierarchy, and that's so the request to fix a road up goes against the hierarchy, and it's addressed in terms of how long it takes and the sequence we go through. So it might be the following budget in 2 years' time, or even next year's budget. So some have appeared on this year's budget, but some have been deferred because they've got to wait their turn against ones that were raised in previous years.
Okay. All right, so still a bit of time to have your say on that if you so wish. Yep. We'll talk more about it in the future once it's finalised. But we should also mention community grants. Now, there is an opportunity for some people to get some grants, I think between $1,000 and $5,000. This is the CASI grant scheme, is that right?
That's right, and that's already closed, Jason. So people would now be waiting on feedback as to their request.
Yep.
It's really to bring organisations and groups that couldn't meet during the last COVID lockdown to hold an event to bring back their members and reunite in the purpose for, like service clubs, senior citizens groups, probus groups who couldn't meet. Hopefully they've all put a request in, and the request will be something like hold an event or an outing or some sort of feature whereby people who can get together and renew their friendships.
Sure. Well, good luck to those who have applied for that. And to finish off with some really good news here, I believe $500,000 coming in for the Caravan Park upgrade. Graeme, tell us about this.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. Under the Regional Infrastructure Fund from the state government, we put a request in to have a look at 6 caravan parks that we have throughout the Shire, and we were lucky enough to receive $544,000 to use, and the plans are already in place. So we've got putting cabins at some of them. I know Warrackambills looks like getting 3 cabins, improving the kitchen facilities at all parks, looking at more powered sites, looking at landscaping, which is a feature, putting lawns in and putting campsites, fixing the amenities blocks up. That's the showers and toilets. So, yeah, It sounds a lot of money, but when you divide it into the parks and the attention that has to be given to the parks, it's going to go a long way. So we've already got another grant in the pipeline for Warracknabeal. It's part of a Building Better Regions Fund application. So we know these days like $500,000 could be spent on one park, and
well, it could
try to do the best.
You talk about multiple cabins. I mean, I'm not sure how much a cabin costs, but you look, $500,000 wouldn't go too far, I wouldn't have thought.
No, I wouldn't have thought. I think maybe 3 years ago when Matoa got their 3 cabins in, they were able to do it for about $140,000.
Right.
I think the 3 cabins now might be nearly double that to put them. And that's the cost of building materials and labour, which have gone through the roof in regional areas as a result of the money that's. But we're getting heaps of money, Jason, thrown at the regions to spend. It's a matter of getting the contractors in to undertake the project, and that's been the battle for us. And once we lock them in, we're able to go. So hopefully we'll get someone to do this for us.
Okay. Well, that's another thing for us to talk about in the future as well. Graeme, all the best for the remainder of this lockdown. Hopefully it is only through until midnight on Thursday. We wish you and your ratepayers all the best, and it's great chatting with you again here on Country Viewpoint.
Fine, Jason. We'll keep our fingers crossed that we're back in action next week.